Hey everybody. Today we're going to review multiplying and dividing rational numbers. That includes integers, decimals, and fractions. Before we see any examples, I want to take a second to review the rules for multiplying and dividing positive and negative numbers. Remember, anytime we see two numbers that have the same sign, the result is going to be positive. So if we have 3 times 4, that's going to give us 12, positive 12. And if we have negative 6 times negative 3, because they have the same sign, our answer is positive, positive 18. When we have two numbers with different signs, the result is going to be negative. 2 times negative 5 gives us negative 10. Negative 7 times positive 2 gives us negative 14. This works the same way for division. Negative 16 divided by negative 2 is 8, because they have the same signs. 20 divided by 5, they have the same signs. Our answer is going to be positive. It's going to be positive 4. When the signs are different, we're going to get a negative. 18 divided by negative 3 is going to give us negative 6. And negative 42 divided by 7, different signs, that's also going to give us negative 6. Let's check out some examples with decimals. In our first example here, we have negative 4.2 times negative 3.4. Now, I know my answer is going to be positive, because my two numbers have the same sign. So now I just need to multiply 4.2 times 3.4. And we do this using what we call the traditional method. We set it up vertically and we multiply. 2 times 4 is 8. 4 times 4 is 16. We put a 0 here as a placeholder. I'm not doing anything with my decimals yet. That comes at the end. 2 times 3 is 6. And 3 times 4 is 12. Now I add vertically 8. That gives me 12. I carry the 1. Gives me 1 plus 1 is 2 plus 2 is 4. And there's the 1. Now I count my number of decimal places. That's 1 decimal place, 2 decimal places, so my answer needs to have 2 decimal places. So that's going to go right there. My answer is positive 14.28. In our second example, negative 8 times 0.002, we do it the same way. Except this time our answer is going to be negative because we have two different signs. But we're going to set up the multiplication the same way vertically. 8 times 0.002. Now 8 times 2 is going to give me 16. Now, I don't need to do the rest of the rows because I know 0 times 8 is going to give me 0. So I can just have 16 here, but now I need to find the decimal. Now I have 3 decimal places in my problem. My answer is also going to have 3 decimal places. So I'm going to move 1, 2, 3 decimal places. I'm going to need to put my decimal here, and in this empty space I'm going to have to put a 0. So our final answer is going to be negative 0.016. With division, we use long division. So we divide decimals the same way we would divide whole numbers. We have 0.4, and we're dividing 17.42 by 0.4. Now, before we divide this, though, we want to make sure this number outside the number we're dividing by is a whole number. So I'm going to move this decimal place 1 spot over to the right. I'm going to have to do the same thing right here. So this becomes 174.2 divided by 4. And now we just do traditional long division. 4 goes into 17 4 times. Want to make sure I write everything nice and neat vertically. That's 16. We subtract, that's 1. We bring the 4 down, that's 14. 4 goes into 14 3 times. 3 times 4 is 12. We subtract, we get 2. This 2 comes down, we get 22. 4 goes into 22 5 times, because 5 times 4 is 20. Now when I subtract here, I'm not going to get an even number. I have a remainder. So I'm going to add a 0 here. Bring that 0 down. And now I see 4 goes into 20 evenly, so that's good, because we're going to be done. 5 times 4 is 20, and that's going to give us 0. Then our final step, we have to move the decimal straight up. We get 43.5 0.55, and we know it's positive because our two signs are the same. Both of them are positive, so our answer is going to be positive. We have one last decimal example here. Now here I'm dividing 9 by 0.003. I know my answer is going to be negative because I have two different signs. So I'm going to have 9 inside here. I'm going to divide by 0.003. Now in this case, I have to move my decimal over 1, 2, 3 times to make this a whole number. I have to do the same thing here. If our decimal's here, I got to move it 1, 2, 3. Now in those empty spaces, I have to fill in zeros. So this really becomes 9,000 divided by 3, and we have our decimal point here. So 3 goes into 9 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. We subtract, we get 0. Bring down a 0. 3 goes into 0 0 times, but 0 times 3 is 0. We subtract, we get 0. I think you see where this is going. I'm just going to work it out. 0 times 3 is 0. And we bring down our last 0. 3 goes into 0 0 times. 0 times 3 is 0. And we're done. There's nothing left to do. Our answer is negative 3,000. Alright, let's do 4 fraction examples and then we can be done. Remember, when we multiply with fractions, we just multiply straight across. So for our first example, we're just going to do negative 4 times 2 and 3 times 5. Now, we could simplify before we multiply, but I don't really see any common factors between any of the numerators and any of the denominators. So I'm just going to go ahead and multiply. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8, and 3 times 5 is 15. And we want to make sure we can't simplify. Negative 8 over 15, there's nothing we can divide both of those by. That's our answer. Now, in our second example, I do see where we can simplify before we multiply. I see 8 and 10 have a common factor of 2. I can divide 8 by 2 and get 4. I can divide 10 by 2 and get 5. Now 3 and 9 also have a common factor, 3. I can divide 3 by 3 and get 1. I can divide 9 by 3 and get 3. And now I can multiply straight across. I have negative 4 times negative 1, same signs. It's going to give me positive 4, and 3 times 5 is 15. Positive 4 over 15 is our answer. That's so much less work than the decimals, isn't it? This is way better. Now when we're dividing fractions, remember, instead of doing a division problem with fractions, I'm just going to change it to multiplication. 5 over 6 times, and then we need to take the reciprocal of 2 over 3. Remember, we're going to write the reciprocal. Okay, some people call this keep, change, flip. That's fine if it helps you. I just say we multiply by the reciprocal. Now, I want to simplify here if we can. I see 2 and 6 have a common factor of 2. So if I divide 6 by 2, I get 3. If I divide 2 by 2, I get 1. And when I multiply straight across, 5 times 1 is 5. 3 times 3 is 9. And I can't simplify that. So we're done. Now in our final example, this is where some people get tripped up when we introduce integers. Now, we can rewrite this problem as 6 over 5 divided by, not negative 4, but we'll write that as a fraction. Remember, we can always write that as negative 4 over 1. Now to change it into a multiplication problem, my 6 over 5 is going to stay the same. Division becomes multiplication, and the reciprocal of negative 4 over 1 is negative 1 over 4. It's still negative, but we switched the 4 and the 1 in the numerator and denominator. Now, I want to see if there's anything I can simplify. I see the 6 and the 4 have a common factor, it's 2, so we divide 4 by 2, we get 2. We divide 6 by 2, and we get 3. 3 times negative 1, that's negative 3. 5 times 2 is 10. There we go. That's it for tonight. Make sure you finish up your notes, ask your questions, write your summary, and don't forget to submit. I'll see you guys tomorrow.